Good morning, everyone. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Supervisor Magsic,
Here.
Supervisor Brandau,
Here.
Supervisor Mendez,
Here.
Supervisor Pacheco,
Here.
Chairman Quintero.
Here.
All present. Thank you.
Good morning. Welcome to the Tuesday, June 6, 2023 meeting of the Fresno County Board of Supervisors. We'll begin today's meeting with the invocation and flag salute. The invocation will be led by District 3. Following the invocation, please remain standing for the flag salute. I guess, who's going to say it? It says District 3. Yeah. Sheriff Zanoni.
Thank you. We could bow our heads. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, bless these proceedings today with your grace and your guiding power. Bless us with wisdom, mercy, and unchanging faith that the decisions made are just, insightful, and with discernment. Father, I pray for our community leaders and all the county family that the duties that we discharge are done so with compassion, justice, and love of service. Please guide all elected officials in making the best decisions that are in the best interest of all of those that we serve. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Sheriff. Sheriff and I both attended San Joaquin Memorial at different times, of course, but if they taught you one thing there was the praise, so you did a good job. Item number 1, Clerk.
Item number 1, approve agenda.
Okay, any comments from the board members? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 2.
Item number 2, approve consent agenda item number 17 through 46. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, item 33 is deleted and will return at a return on June 20th. Item 43 is deleted and will return at a later date. So 33 and 43 deleted.
These matters are routine in nature and usually approved by a single vote. Are there any members of the board that would like an item removed from the consent for discussion? Okay. Any members of the public that would like an item removed for discussion? Okay. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 3, Clerk.
We now move to item number 3 under the Board of Supervisors. Presentation of retirement plaque to Cindy Chacon, Department of Social Services, 24 years of service.
Okay. Deputy Director Dalvin Baker and Program Manager Kathleen Miller, please step forward and make a few comments about Ms. Chacon.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Dalvin Baker, Deputy Director, Fresno County Department of Social Services, Child Welfare. I'll start over. Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Dalvin Baker, Deputy Director, Fresno County Department of Social Services, Child Welfare. Also present, Program Manager Kathleen Miller, our Director, Sonia Bouguet, and Cindy Chacon, who we're honoring today. Thank you for the opportunity to allow us to honor the retirement of Cindy Chacon. Kathleen Miller will be providing a few words about her service with the department. Before we go there, I would like to say thank you, Cindy, for all of your years of service to the department. In addition to touching the lives of hundreds of our families with the community, she's also touched the lives of plenty of our employees of the department. She really goes out of her way to check in on our staff, ask how they're doing, ask about their families, provide words of encouragement and motivation. That's something that has been very valuable for our families and our staff, and you can tell she truly means everything that she says when she says she cares about our families and our community. So with that said, I will turn it over to Kathleen Miller.
Good morning. Thank you for having us here to honor Cindy. We really appreciate all her years of service. And she actually was with the county just a little over 25 years. Cindy began her career on February 17th, 1998, and she retired this past March on the 31st. Cindy had a very viable career with the county. She had various positions as she promoted through the county. She started off in 1998 as an office assistant with the Department of Children and Family Services, which is child welfare. And while she was there, she provided clerical support to our social workers. And she also worked in the reunification areas and emergency response. So when the referrals would come in regarding child abuse and neglect, Cindy was one of the clerical support people that helped us identify those referrals so we could respond to them. In 2010, Cindy promoted to an eligibility worker with the Department of Social Services, and she was part of our fraud diversion unit while she was there, and she also worked with linkages. And in 2018, however, she promoted to the Department of Social Services as a social worker in permanency planning. So she was working with youth in our foster care system that may be up to the age of 21 years of age who had not reunified with their parents or entered into a plan of guardianship or adoption. So it was really her job to work with the youth and their support teams to help them develop a permanent plan that was going to allow them to safely leave our foster care system, to meet their career goals, their education goals. But a lot of times our foster children do have some barriers to address along the way. And Cindy was very helpful in engaging the youth and their teams to overcome those barriers so they could be successful, enter our community, and be safe and thrive and have all their well-being and needs met. So I really appreciate Cindy. On another note, Cindy has really enjoyed working with the children and family of Fresno County. She was somebody who really strived to build her career while she was managing both her work life and her home life. She was able to obtain her bachelor's degree, which allowed her to promote within the county and become a social worker. As Dalvin said, she was very, very caring and compassionate of her coworkers and the family she worked with. She was always willing to be a mentor or coach to our new workers and also to the youth. And you can only imagine teenagers, if you've raised any of them, they can be a little bit of a challenge. So Cindy might be working with 30 to 35 of them at a time. And she really, really gave them her all. She really, really cared for them. And she was sharing with me that she's still thinking about them and hope they're doing well. And thank you, Cindy. Do you want to say a few words?
Hi, good morning. Thank you for making the time to see me and allow them to acknowledge the 25 years. I just want to say, working with the county when I first started was so awesome because you could be an OA clerical and you can actually go out and help, and be a social worker. And I love that you were able to go and grow within the department. I love that. I loved the encouragement. I loved how they also assisted with that Title IV so that I can get my education. I was a single parent, and I was able to go and grow within the department. I love my job. And Kathleen's right. If you guys have teenagers or grandkids, you know how they are. And oh my goodness, they are very challenging. But also, they want to know that somebody cares about them. Yes, we're, heavy caseloads, short staff, but when you take the time to listen to them and, they're calling you, hey, bro, listen to me, bro. It's just like, okay, woke, what does woke mean? You got to tell me, what is it? You learn all these things from these kids, but when you really actually sit there and you listen to them and you tell them, no, really, I want to hear you. What is it that bothers you? Or how can we make this better? The kids really want somebody to hear them. They really, really do. Some of these kids don't have parents, you know, for obvious reasons, death, divorce, their parents are doing something else, but, you know, the kids love when you pay attention to them. I miss my kids, I do. So again, thank you very much, and I hope maybe one day I can go back part-time.
Cindy, did you want to introduce any of your family members if they're here?
Oh, yes, thank you, sir.
Sure.
I would like to introduce my daughter, Saria, and my other daughter, Andrea, my mother-in-law, Trudy, and I don't know if Letha and Matt made it. Did they make it yet? No, they haven't made it yet. So they're here with me today, and my son-in-law, he works for the county, too. I told him, don't tell anybody you know me. He's got a good job, and I don't want to mess him up.
Okay, any comments from the board members? Okay. Well, Cindy, I want to thank you for your passion and your heart in serving the families of Fresno County. I know you've made a big impact over the years with the families that you've worked with and, of course, within the department itself. So we really want to thank you for that. Is there any comments from the public? Okay. Seeing none, Cindy, will you please step forward and receive your retirement plaque? And if you'd like to ask your family to come forward and take a picture.
Where do I go to?
Come on forward. Right here.
Right up here.
Okay, I'll follow you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate it. Congratulations. Thank you. Good morning.
Hi, Cindy. Good to see you. And then you stand and you shake hands and then stand in the middle. Yeah.
Thank you. You should have told your son-in-law to tell people about you.
You know what, the county depends on me, he's very smart.
She earned it.
Pretty cool, yeah. All right, here we go. All right. Delvin, the man in black. Got it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Could I just say one more thing? That's my daughter and my son-in-law, Matt. I told him not to say that you knew me. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We now move to item number 4 under the Administrative Office. Recognize Fresno County Public Information Officer Sonia Dossi and District Attorney Public Information Officer Taylor Long as they are presented with the CAPIO Award in the Communication Marketing Process category for their fentanyl awareness campaign, and recognize Fresno County Communications and Media Production Specialist Joshua Dean as he is presented with the CAPIO Award in the Video Production category for his Juvenile Correction Officer promotional video.
Okay. That was the mouthfuls. CAO, Mr. Nerlin.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board, your County Administrative Officer, Paul Nerlin. I'm going to ask Sonia Dosti, Joshua Dean, and Taylor Long if they want to go stand behind the podium for a moment. Board, as you know, our mission to the county is providing excellent service to our diverse community, but when we can see excellence recognized, we really want to celebrate success. And so we're here today to recognize several accomplishments. Number one, the fentanyl awareness campaign that I know your board is very aware of, which has been a partnership with really the leadership of our district attorney, Lisa Schmidt-Camp, who would be here today. She had a funeral to be at this morning, but she is here in spirit as we talk this morning. But with her leadership and the partnership, that campaign, working closely with our team in the sales office, put together a campaign that is really making a difference in this community. And that campaign was recognized by peers at the California Association of Public Information Officers, or CAPIO, with an EPIC award. And so that was recognized by people who know excellence. But even greater, we received national recognition based on an application that was put in that demonstrated the success of this program from the National Association of Counties. And so we've got both statewide and national recognition for this fentanyl campaign. And this is a campaign that is actually making a difference. We're actually seeing a decrease in this area, and we're nowhere near done. But it's something really to the good work of our team here. And in addition to that, at Capio, Joshua Dean, who's produced so many excellent videos that you see, received an award of distinction for a video that was specifically focused on increasing recruitment for our juvenile correctional officers. It was an excellent video. After the video, we received 80% more applications than we had received in the past. And so today, I just want to recognize them in front of your board, in front of everyone watching, just for their excellence. So thank you for the opportunity to recognize excellence this morning.
Any comments from the board? Supervisor Magzik, you were taking pictures, so I'm sure.
Yeah, I took a picture up here of you guys when you were standing, so I already texted to Sonia and Josh, so Taylor, I can get that to you as well. But I'll just share that I know all of you, and Taylor, we miss you, of course, here on this side of the building, but you're doing great work, and you are definitely a valuable asset here at the county, and I hope you make a very long career of it here. And of course, to Sonia and Josh, just looking at what's happened in the last 2 years, 18 months really, and not only the campaigns you've been involved with, but it seems like one fire to the next that you've been getting involved with, and really appreciate your communication style, because one thing that's been lacking here at the county is the ability to communicate effectively in many different languages, letting folks know the exciting things that they can look forward to here in the county, and also the dangers. So I've appreciated all three of you, and what you've done in this award is very much well-deserved, so congratulations.
Yeah,
Supervisor
well, he
Mendez?
kind of said it all, but I mean, but it's, Sonia, since you first came here, I mean, you've basically built this division up. I mean, Josh, brought in Josh, great filmmaker. And of course, Taylor moving up and actually helping the DA get their story out. And Taylor, thanks for bringing my friend Kevin Long here today, who happens to be your dad, but it's good to see him. So, I mean, you guys done great work, and, I think your best work is to come. Thank you.
Supervisor Brandow?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just agree with everything that Nathan and Buddy have said. I want you to know that the hard work is appreciated. Out on the streets, the fentanyl campaign has been very powerful, potent, and now copied by other counties around the state, across the nation. That's a super valuable thing. You're affecting lives, and so we appreciate that. And then beyond the fentanyl campaign, I agree with what Supervisor Mendez said about Sonia, since you and Josh have come on board, have really helped promote the face of Fresno County, all the different things that we're doing. And so that's very valuable to the five of us and the entire team, so we appreciate your work. Thank you.
It's not only promote, they have to defend us a lot too. And with you and a few others, it's kind of a full-time job, so we appreciate it. I just want to say that as well.
Yeah, and I also want to say thank you, because a lot of times whatever is stated in the media and printed, clarification needs to be made, and the quick response that we're able to get the clarification out there, I think, is equally important as letting the public know in a timely manner. So I really want to thank you for all that hard work, and I know you work long hours, and it's not an 8-hour job. So okay, thank you. Are there any comments from the public? Okay. No motion is required, as this is
We
a
have
record.
one comment, Mr. Chairman.
Oh.
Good morning, Chairman. Kirk Haynes, Chief Probation Officer. I just wanted to rise just to say, I echo all of the words that you've had. this morning around the work with Sonia, Josh, and with Taylor, especially at the DA's office. But as you mentioned, CO Nerland, we've been dealing with a 30% vacancy rate in our JCO ranks. And the work that we've done, and from almost the first week that Sonia was here, and when Josh came, that was one of the priorities that we had, was to try to do some things to start to tell our story in our department. And they've done an outstanding job in partnership with the probation department. So I just want to echo my thanks to all of you and for the hard work that we'll do and continue to do. So that's all I wanted to just say thank you.
Mr. Nerlin, closing comments?
I might ask, with your permission, if they might have any comments, and then I maybe take a quick picture afterward. So.
Yes.
I hope it's not obvious. Joshua Dean, Communication Media Specialist here at the county. I hope it's not obvious how uncomfortable I am up here. There's a reason I chose to be behind the camera. I don't like the attention, but I really appreciate this recognition. It's been an honor and a pleasure to highlight the great work that's been done here. And to take it a step further, it's such a privilege to meet and to highlight all the great people who are doing that work. So thank you so much for the opportunity to do that, and thank you so much for this recognition.
Good morning. I just have a few words, and the first is just thank you. It wouldn't be possible without your partnership, that you believed in us over 2 years ago when Lisa probably called all of you multiple times, as she does, to let you know about this fentanyl crisis that was happening in our community. And we would not be here today if it was not for your continued support, not only financially, but also just the motivational texts and encouragement whenever we see you. This has been a passion of all of ours, I think, at this point. Sonia as a mom, me as a daughter, and with nieces and nephews that are in this community, and we are going to continue that hard work, hopefully with your continued support, and so just thank you.
Yes, thank you, Board. Sonia Dosti, PIO with the county. Thank you so much to all of you and to Paul for your support on this campaign. It is hard to be here, though, without our fearless leader, DA Lisa Smitkamp. She has been so powerful in the way that she's conveyed this message throughout the county, and I know that she and Taylor, like you all see the billboards, you see all of our social media, you may see all of the TV spots that are everywhere, but the two of them are also going anywhere that they can speak. Schools, they're going to Rotary clubs, churches, wherever anyone will welcome them to talk about the fentanyl issue, they will go, and they are tireless. They do it, so many nights during the week, during the weekends. So I'm so grateful to Lisa for her leadership in this area and the fact that she's the one that started all of this. And I would be remiss if I did not also thank all of our other county departments that assisted us with this campaign, our public health department, behavioral health, or even our library, all of our law enforcement partners, and Fresno Sheriff and Fresno Police, DEA, the U.S. Attorney, all of our education partners, and specifically the former Superintendent Jim Yovino, who actually produced that first PSA that was so powerful and disturbing, but he gave us the freedom to use that to help launch our campaign. So I thank him and Justin Davis and Juanita Stevenson. And lastly, for Outfront and Univision and Coca-Cola Broadcasting, they helped us so much with our campaign, giving us a lot of in-kind services on top of what we had already paid them. I will say lastly, the numbers, you all may not know that our numbers went from 2 people who died of fentanyl in 2018. 2019, it was 15 people, so it was a 650% increase. In 2020, it was 41. It was a 173% increase. In 2021, it was 114, so that was a 178% increase. It was in 2021 that we started this campaign. In 2022, it went down to 96 people who died from fentanyl. That's a 16% decrease. So these awards are great, and I'm so honored that we could receive them, but this is the greatest reward of all, is to see that the outcomes are really positive, that we're seeing that decrease, but we know that they can continue to go back up when we take our foot off the pedal. So thank you so much for allowing us to do this campaign.
Thank you all. No motion is required, as this is a recognition item. Madam Clerk?
Can we get a photo of our PIO?
Oh, yeah. Take a picture. Sorry about that. have anything to give them.
Oh, Paul does.
Oh, Paul's got it. You didn't bring your award to show off. Like an Oscar. Oh, there it is.
Josh, you didn't want to do the pink thing?
They didn't tell me. I just showed up.
Behind the camera, not in front.
Taylor, good to see you. Good job.
We now move to item number 5, under the Administrative Office, adopt and authorize the chairman to execute a resolution supporting the California State Association of Counties at-home plan to address homelessness throughout California that supplements the meaningful progress and exclusive efforts the county has already taken to help persons who are unhoused or are housing insecure.
Okay, I'll turn this item over to our County Administrative Officer, Paul Nerlin.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Paul Nerland, your CAO. It's a pleasure this morning to introduce someone you already know, but many in the audience may not know, and that is Graham Canas, the Executive Director of CSAC. He is here today to speak to a resolution that is in front of you this morning called the At-Home Program, which has been an effort that I know members of your board that are active in CSAC are aware of, but it's an important effort, and I'm going to turn it over to Graham to share that with you and explain what this resolution and support is all about. Graham, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, and good morning to the board. It's awesome to be back in Fresno after, I think it's been a couple of months since I was last here, so really excited to be back here, this time talking about homelessness. I think I first want to start by saying thank you, because what I'm going to talk through in just a moment in large part comes from some of the good work that you're doing right here in this county and the leadership of this board. And we're fortunate to have Supervisor Mendez serve on the CSAC Executive Committee, so he's representing supervisors from across the state in our efforts on all of our priorities, but that's true related to homelessness as well. And we had a key member of your CAO's office that was with us from the ground floor in building the plan that I'm going to talk through in just a moment. So that great work that you've been doing in your county has certainly found its way in what we are recommending more broadly across the state. We start from a place of dysfunction, which is to say, in California, like every other state in the country, there is absolutely no system to address homelessness, which sounds crazy, and yet it's true. There are dozens and dozens of different programs that have been created with good intent over decades, and they do not interact with each other, they're not integrated, and there's not clear responsibilities for all different levels of government. And ultimately, what we are planning to do, what we are recommending doing, is to change that so that there is clear responsibilities for all levels of government. That includes the state, it includes the county, and it also includes cities in your community as well. And so the other challenge that we are trying to solve is that there are funds that are coming out from the state around homelessness today. The way those dollars are going out currently has absolutely no relationship to what is occurring locally in communities. And so your board is doing marvelous work in this, your board and your county is doing marvelous work. The city of Fresno receives direct dollars, and they're doing their good work. The COC is doing its work, but it's not all part of one system that the state is invested in on an ongoing basis, and that needs to change. So we started in a place of looking at what's out there and what is working, working with your office and many others across the state to do that, to map out what currently exists in California as it relates to homelessness, and then to identify barriers to success so that we can put together a plan that addresses those barriers and fills in the gaps. So At Home has 6 pillars. I'm going to focus on one of them. There are many dozens of recommendations throughout the 6 pillars. They're all on our website. I'm not going to go through all of them today, That would take many hours, and so I'll save the board and the rest of the county related to that. But at home is ultimately accountability first and foremost, which is clearly defining who does what and how it's aligned to resources, authority, and accountability. Transparency, which is about data. We have to know what is working and what isn't working in a way that informs you as policymakers and also your community. Housing, which is about shelters, transitional housing, and permanent supportive housing that needs to be in place in communities. Outreach, which is two things. One, it's ensuring that there is a sufficient workforce to do the work. Currently in California and across the country, there's a severe shortage of behavioral health workers and also social workers, one of whom you just recognized a moment ago. And the other part of outreach is about that initial emergency response system when someone falls into homelessness. Mitigation, which is largely the health and human services system that counties operate on behalf of the state and federal government. And then finally, economic opportunity, pathways out of homelessness and ensuring that there's education, there are career pathways, and there's recognition of those who are so severely disabled that they're unlikely to be able to become self-sufficient at some point in the future. That's at home and what we have proposed. Relative to accountability, what we are recommending is one single countywide plan, unified, that is developed within your community with the county as the lead. One overall fiscal agent for the county, and also ensuring that there continues to be direct funds for the big cities in the state which operate at a higher scale, and that includes certainly the city of Fresno. So the dollars would flow through this plan, and then they would be distributed based upon who's doing what work. And so if ultimately the county is doing half of the work, the county receives half of those funds, and the rest are then distributed to cities and nonprofits in your community that are doing the rest of the work. That's how it should flow, and to ensure that there's sufficient accountability attached to the system. We are recommending very specific and clear responsibilities for different levels of government. For the cities, we are recommending that they be responsible for things that are largely in the housing space. That is citing and standing up and doing the administrative operations of shelters and transitional housing, citing permanent supportive housing, and doing encampment cleanup and sanitation. The county would be responsible for all those same things in the unincorporated area, and then throughout the county would be responsible for the health and human services, particularly in the behavioral health area, for those prioritized for those who are homeless. Relative to encampment outreach, we leave that open as that the best entity to do that locally varies from community to community. Sometimes it's the city, sometimes it's the county, sometimes it's a health plan. And so we're recommending that that be left to local discretion. In terms of the state role, ultimately, we hear over and over again how homelessness is the #1 priority of the state. And so there needs to be an ongoing funding commitment to address the highest priority of the state of California. And so we are recommending that there be ongoing funding, and that funding be directly linked to what folks are seeking to accomplish locally in communities. And so if there's an expectation that you are solving homelessness, then the state needs to fund and invest in the solutions required in order to do that, and arm you with the authority and the flexibility to do it in a way that makes sense in your community. And so we are recommending that. We're recommending maximum local flexibility and to get some of the barriers out of the way. As an example, in the county of Santa Cruz, there is one rapid rehousing program that requires 10 different funding sources, 6 different state departments, all with different reporting rules, all serving a slightly different population. That is not government at its best. And so instead, the state should define what it is we're trying to accomplish, who should do it, and then get out of the way and arm local government with the tools to determine how it should get done at the local level. And then if we don't succeed, then the state should come in and and hold us accountable for that, but arm us with the necessary tools in order to make some progress. We're also recommending performance incentive funds. There's something like this that exists in probation today, and these would essentially be for those communities that outperform the stated goals. You should be rewarded. Currently, the more progress you make, the less funds you receive. And so in the county of Monterey, there was a 15% reduction point-in-time count year over year, and as a direct result, they had a $1.7 million cut. And so some of the solutions that were put in place and were successful are now being eroded, and they're going the wrong way related to homelessness. So instead, we're suggesting there be a performance-based pot of dollars from the state to encourage success at the local level. And to put that in place. And then less relevant for Fresno, but relevant for some of the smaller counties in the state, ensuring that there's a sufficient minimum amount for those little counties like Alpine with 1,200 residents, or Siskiyou with 45,000 residents, and others that are small, so that they can meet the scale that is necessary within their community. Ultimately, we're building a coalition around these ideas in accountability, and that coalition is broad. It includes Cal Chamber, it includes some labor, it includes other business councils, it includes the COC, includes a number of counties, and it continues to grow every day. And we are seeking to then impact what is occurring in the state budget, which the legislature will consider on June 15th, and so that is right around the corner. And so we have crafted language to implement what I just walked through in statute this year connected to the budget. And we are having active conversations with the governor's office, the legislature, and a whole host of others to try to accomplish that. That is a very, very tall order, and it takes all of us to make an impact in order to make that happen, which is why I'm happy to be here and with you all today. So we are pushing on that. We will have a press conference on this coming Monday announcing our coalition. So we'll be going public with the broad coalition of all the different entities that have joined us to be part of that, so that we can maximally impact the state budget associated with that. So much more information at our website, dozens and dozens of other policy recommendations, but certainly thank this board for its leadership over the past several years around homelessness, and us being able to borrow some of your expertise within your CIO's office to create this plan as we try to build something that makes sense, is easy to understand, and has the ongoing investments from the state that are necessary in order to make it real. And so with that, let me hand it back to Chairman Quintero, and happy to engage in any questions or dialogue. And also know you have some local expertise that will be presenting how all this intersects with what you're doing here locally.
Thank you. I'd like to start in bringing it back to the board with Chairman Magzik, who's works on our committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Graham, thank you for being here. CSAC, of course, represents all the counties across the state of California, of which there are 58. And you're here with us today. And I really appreciate you coming in last night and really just showing the Central Valley and the entire state how important this is for your organization. Just a couple of things I'd like to share, because it's important for this to not be lost in the process. But what I have found is homelessness is very dynamic. Homelessness affects counties differently. There are some counties, Los Angeles County, where you've got 25% of the state's population, where you have a lot of concentrated homelessness there. And I think as we approach this regionally, and each area takes tools and the lessons learned, and they can report back to you, we can refine our efforts and continue to get better and better and more efficient as we deal with individuals who are experiencing homelessness. So I really appreciate this plan and resolution you've brought forward. Here at the County of Fresno, several years ago, we identified the importance for us to work with the 15 cities that we have in Fresno County. And Sonia De La Rosa, who at the time was kind of our point person on homelessness, who now is the CAO of Monterey County, worked very diligently with the city of Fresno and the other 14 cities here, and there was a 14-point plan, which was adopted. And what was interesting about that is the cities, the county, and then Madera County and their 2 cities, we all were rowing in the same direction because we don't want to duplicate services, and we definitely don't want to push homeless from one community to another. We want to provide wraparound services. And so what I see in your plan here is attempting to do this statewide. And I really appreciate that all of us need to recognize that there's a role that we play to the extent that the state can continue to fund some of these components is critical. Because as you ramp up and create capacity to deal with homelessness, if at any moment in time, 1 year, there's no funds available, it actually collapses this effort, which takes many years to actually build. And so the state needs to recognize this is something that we're not going to be able to, it's not 1 or 2 year funding. It's got to be ongoing funding. And if the state's willing to commit to that, I think we can see some great results with all of this. And again, back to homelessness being dynamic. I would really like to see us spending more time working one-on-one with homeless individuals because they all have a story. Some individuals are experiencing mental health challenges, some drug addictions, some have fallen on hard times, and we can't treat each one of those individuals the exact same way. They all have special needs, and to the extent that we can identify what is needed individually and provide those services, I think that's where we're going to be most effective. But I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate that you've been working with our CAO's staff for several months, and this is kind of the culmination of all this effort. So really looking forward to this. And I missed this in your presentation. Is the League of California Cities also doing something similar to this at-home program? Or is both the League and CSAC working together so we can speak with one voice? Or is that part of the plan as we roll this out?
We are moving in that direction. We've done a number of joint things together. We merged both their legislative conference and our legislative conference together for the first time in our histories to spend 3 hours just talking about homelessness and how to move forward and be collaborative, to collaborate together, brought in state leaders attached to that as well. And we've had officer-to-officer meetings between the 2 organizations, and we're now having extensive conversations at a lower level with the staff. We are getting there. They are not yet part of the coalition, but we're having very positive conversations with them as we are with the big 13 mayors as well. And so we're getting there. There's no question related to the need for ongoing funding to make ongoing progress. There are different approaches related to policy, but we've made a fair amount of progress with our colleagues, and we plan to continue down that path until we are all on the same page, exactly on the same page together to move this forward.
I'm glad that you pointed out that with this plan, you identified that really the cities need to take the lead when it comes to kind of doing the sticks and bricks, the construction of units to provide that housing. Because again, cities typically have sewer services, water services, where in the county we're much more in rural parts of the state. A lot of times we don't have those types of facilities, but they're critical so we can be as efficient as possible in delivering services. But one of the things that you said, which we're already doing here in Fresno County, is regardless of where the housing units are built, we are always involved with the behavioral health services. And I think here in the county of Fresno and looking at the city of Fresno, the city talks about a lot of the units that they've been building. And to my knowledge, I'm looking over at Amina, to my knowledge, I believe the county has actually written letters of support for all the home key projects that they have been successful in getting, because the state wants to make sure that not only are projects being built, but the back-end services, those soft services to the individuals who are experiencing homelessness, that those soft services are there. Because if you're not able to provide that back-end care, at the end of the day, you're not making that individual better. So the county is working right now very closely with the city of Fresno, and we've helped them with, I think, every unit of housing that they've been able to build. So to the extent you can ring that bell in Sacramento and get the governor and the legislature more excited and help them to all get on the same page and clearly see we need to have We need to have deliverables. We need to have things, benchmarks, so we can hold each other accountable. I think that's fantastic. So well done, and I'm very excited to support this resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Mendez?
Yeah, I was there when we hired you. I think you were a great hire. I was already on the board of directors, if you remember.
I do indeed.
And you've definitely lived up to all the expectations that we had. And I'm talking as a CSAC board member. I mean, you've done, we couldn't ask, for better leadership. One of the things that, I'm going to drill in on what Nathan was talking about. When we talk about soft services, those all come from the counties. The only city in the state that can do that is the city of San Francisco, because they're a city and county combined. They're the only setup of the 58 that's set up that way. But you can build, you can have the 13 mayors build stuff, but if you don't have the soft services coming in behind, it just becomes a facade. So I think it's very important, and that's what the counties do, and people completely forget about that. And then you were talking about the League of Cities. There's kind of division there a little bit, which kind of makes it hard to work with them a little bit, because you've got the big cities kind of doing their own thing, and then you got the other cities who make up the mass majority of that organization that aren't getting the funding in the way that the big 13 are. So, but I just want to thank you, and I want to give a little shout out to our president of CSAC, who's, I think, done great leadership in his term with this item, has been right there with you, fighting to make sure the counties aren't left behind in this deal.
Yes, sir. There is certainly value in having the first comprehensive plan come from counties, because it's what, now it's the only real product that is on the table that has real accountability, and there's risk with that, and not everyone is ready to accept a level of accountability. But that leadership, which came bottom up and top down at the same time, has changed the narrative around this issue in our interactions with state lawmakers and at the federal level as well. And that puts us in as good a position as we could possibly be, and it really has served to get everyone in the same room together. And so while the Big 13 and Cal Cities more broadly may not have fully joined the coalition, we're having very productive conversations that have been more productive than we've had in years. And that's the result of putting together this great work and borrowing Sonia for a number of months to help make sure that we weren't screwing it up in the process. And so thank you for your leadership, and happy to be here to present this today.
Supervisor Brandow?
Graham, thanks for traveling back to Fresno today. We're appreciative to have you back in town. I love the presentation. I could be very supportive of this. In my mind, I like to oversimplify things for myself. It sounds like your strategy is to create so that all the different agencies see what their role is and then stay in their lane as much as possible. And if everybody could do that, we could get a lot done. Okay, rather than crossover, have mixed messages, have mixed strategies, independent strategies. So it sounds wonderful, although I'm very skeptical of government pulling stuff like this off. And Supervisor Magzig asked about the League of Cities. In all reality, Graham, 4 of us were at that last convention where, for the first time, CSAC, the counties and the cities, held a joint convention. There were 2 1.5-hour seminars with a little break in between them that Supervisor Magzig and I were attending, and we sat next to each other. So this stuff is happening. I am today a little disappointed to hear that the League of Cities has not come more directly to the table. And until that happens, the plan makes me nervous because during those seminars, there was a great talks and little speeches about cities and counties working together. We do need to see that. I'm a little frustrated that the League of Cities isn't able to catch onto this vision at this time, because in all reality, the League of Cities needs to be making a very similar presentation about here's your focus and stay in your lane to our friends down the street. And until that happens, I'm very nervous about your plan being pulled off. So, but I do want to ask a next level series of questions similar to that. How about the governor and the state houses of state legislature? Where are they at with the at-home plan?
We've had very positive conversations and active on a near daily basis with the governor's office and the legislature. In the legislature, both houses adopted what's called placeholder language, which means, so that's budget speak to say they want to do something in this area and they haven't figured out exactly all the specifics around it. And that was, at least in part, at our request, so that we can continue to have these very conversations. And similar conversations are happening with the governor's office. What we have proposed are specific changes to improve the bill that the governor already has on this topic. And those conversations have been very positive. The same is true with Cal Cities. And so while they may not be part of this coalition, there's not a question as to whether or not there needs to be clear responsibilities for different levels of government. I think they are there on that point, and we're having very productive conversations, particularly in local spaces, where I was with San Diego County and City last Friday, Santa Barbara County and all of their city leaders as well. We've done the same thing at San Luis Obispo, and we've done it at Shasta and a number of other places. And those are changing the dynamic in terms of where folks are at. And so there are cities that are beginning to drive this internally. And I expect that we're going to get to a place where cities and counties are standing together on this issue, because ultimately it is all of you, counties and city leaders, that are the leaders within your community that should be determining how things get done. That's not a state role. But it is a state role to determine what gets done, what we're trying to accomplish, and who should do it. And that's what effectively we're proposing. Have a very clear role of the state that is up here with an ongoing revenue source and accountability attached to that, and then arm you all with the authority and the flexibility to do it in a way that makes sense to you. And for that to occur within coordination with your local cities and your business, nonprofits, other leaders within your community, and so that you're bringing everyone together so that there's one plan moving forward, much like the work that you have been doing and leading here in Fresno. Because there's one thing over everything else that determines success around homelessness, and that's everyone moving in the same direction. And too often that doesn't occur because, to your point about people staying in their lanes, currently the highway system for homelessness doesn't have any lanes at all, but there are a lot of cars. And so you can imagine how confusing and how many accidents occur when that is happening. And if instead we build a system, which we believe our plan is, of actually putting the lanes in on the highway and indicating that's the county lane, that's the city lane, that's the state lane, that's the community lane, that's the nonprofit lane, then you have an ability for everyone to move forward in the same way and not step over each other. And that's what we're trying to accomplish. And every day there are more and more folks, and that includes entities within other local governments across the state that are stepping in to join us in this effort.
All right, well, I'm hopeful at this point. I'm hopeful, and I believe that it would take the full support of city governments across the state of California to decide to make a choice to work with their county partners. And I won't go into more detail now, but that's very challenging here in Fresno County. And so I do appreciate all of the work. Definitely, we need to establish the lanes, and I think that's important. I believe here in Fresno County, we understand our role, and we've got a lot of great departments that are engaged in homelessness and in the process of trying to help people. I do want to remind you, I hope that for me, well, I'll just speak for myself. I get nervous when people say they're going to run out and solve homelessness, okay? I've heard that from too many politicians. I think the people are burnt out on that. Constituents that I represent, they also understand that we're spending massive amounts of money in that space, and they're starting to question what are they getting for their dollars. So all of that's very important to me. So I do appreciate your work. If we can get others to buy into this, I think it would be, an important step going forward. Thanks for coming to Fresno.
You got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham, for the proposal. I believe it'll help. It's something that'll help us move forward. And in any case, we're not going to solve the problem of homeless overnight. I mean, we know that already. But to me, in supporting it, it's just a big tool in our toolbox to help address a lot of the homelessness that we have, and hopefully move forward in addressing some of the needs and help that we need. So I think we're on. It's a good proposal, and be happy to support it. And with that, the second part of this, I wanted to turn it back to our CAO to introduce Amina, and then have Supervisor Magzig address that.
Thank you, Chairman, and Graham, thank you for that presentation. I think I've heard you use another analogy about an orchestra playing without sheet music, and that one really resonated with me. That's what we're trying to achieve here, so thank you for the clarity in that. I want to introduce Amina Flores-Becker, who is the Deputy CAO in my office, and as you know, she is one of her tasks overseeing here at the county is our homelessness efforts, and she's going to speak about not only our efforts, but how they fit within pillars that Graham was speaking to. So, Amina.
Thank you, Paul. Amina Flores-Becker, Deputy CAO with the County of Fresno. So I'm briefly going to just highlight this document, which you all should have a copy of in front of you. We placed some copies in the back in case anybody in the public wants to take one. And what this document does is, one, it highlights the 6 pillars of the at-home plan, and then specifically identifies programs, projects, actions that the county has taken that align with the pillars. I'm not going to go over the whole document, but there's a lot of programs there, and this list is not all inclusive. This is just high-level programs that we have identified that closely align or fall under the pillars in this at-home plan. The first pillar is accountability, and in that pillar, the need to provide ongoing funding is identified. So a great example of the county doing that is our multi-agency access program. And this program connects folks experiencing homelessness, thousands of folks experiencing homelessness every year with access to programs. So that falls under the accountability pillar. Next is the housing pillar, which identifies the need to increase housing inventory across the spectrum. One of the areas that the County of Fresno has focused on through its Department of Behavioral Health is permanent supportive housing. Over the last 5 years, our Department of Behavioral Health has created approximately 387 permanent supportive housing. And this type of housing is really, really important to folks that have serious mental illness and require extensive on-site services. So this has been a focus of the county through its Department of Behavioral Health. And then finally, I wanted to highlight under the outreach pillar, a little bit over $1 million in ARPA funding that this board allocated to a rural outreach program. So these folks go out, we created a team, they go out to meet homeless folks where they're at and provide supportive services there so that they don't have to come to the city of Fresno or wherever the services are at. They receive the outreach and the supportive services there, and these services range from mental health screenings all the way to transportation to DSS buildings if that's where they need to go. So it's a plethora of services that are being provided that we feel closely aligns with the outreach pillar. So just to conclude, we believe that the plan closely aligns with the efforts that the county has already been doing and really will help supplement and enhance what we do moving forward in our efforts to address homelessness. I did want to also mention that this document was created in collaboration with several departments that are here today in the County of Fresno. Those departments include behavioral health, social services, public works and planning, sheriff's office. So it is a collaborative effort, even in the county, to address homelessness. That concludes my presentation.
Supervisor Magzik.
So appreciate you preparing this document. And what I like is you've gone back 5 years and just identified specifically housing units that the Department of Behavioral Health has created that are new. One thing I wanted to point out, and sometimes the public forgets, really if you go back 20 years, I look at the Hacienda site, which I believe has the ability to house about 650 individuals, many of whom have experienced homelessness, other addiction issues too. But that program, which I believe is funded as well by the Department of Behavioral Health and continues to be funded, that's not even part of the 387 units that we're talking about. So if you look at what the Department of Social Services is funding and has funded the last 20 years, behavioral health, and then you also take a look at some of the home funds that we have here, working with organizations like Habitat for Humanity, working with many rural cities because we get their home and CDBG allocations. And you look at all those small projects that we've done, really you can identify thousands upon thousands of people who the county of Fresno has been involved with, that many of which have experienced homelessness. But again, you go back just the last 3 years with the COVID challenges we've faced. I remember a press conference we had where the city of Fresno and the county of Fresno stood shoulder to shoulder, and we created 600 units for homeless using, at the time, COVID dollars to really try to take care of individuals who are experiencing homelessness. And again, the numbers that you mentioned aren't a part of this 387 number either. So what's challenging is if you really went back and looked at all the housing units that have been created, some of them transitional housing units, some of them permanent housing units now, it would be thousands of units. And this is something which we need more housing units, and really appreciate your efforts kind of taking the lead, working with the different departments on continuing to create new housing units. And it's not lost on me, just last week on Friday, we were at a groundbreaking for an apartment complex where we're partnering with the Housing Authority. And at that site, I believe 11 permanent supportive housing units are being created. And the Department of Behavioral Health committed $2.2 million plus, I believe, $80,000 a year for 20 years to provide services to residents of those 11 units. And I've been to about 4 different groundbreakings this year alone that behavioral health has been a part of with the Housing Authority. So we are doing a lot, and we need to be doing more. But I appreciate your efforts and the efforts of all of our departments here who are very committed to all the residents of Fresno County. Thank you.
Supervisor Brandow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Amina, great job. Now that you're on the team, and leadership in this role it's fantastic to have somebody that I can turn to and answer questions, tell me, which I've come to you multiple times in the last couple of weeks. I want to follow up on some of the questions and statements that I made when Graham was speaking. So how are things going with your counterparts at the city of Fresno? Because, we hear a lot about criticisms of the county. So talk about leadership over there, and where are you at with in relationship with the city of Fresno?
Definitely. So the relationship with the city of Fresno, in particular, the homeless unit there, is growing and it is evolving. We have recently had discussions to set up monthly recurring meetings so that we can be on the same page. And I think that's important. And one of the conversations that we had last week was this is going to take a joint effort and we have to be on the same page. And I think that's understood on both sides. Obviously, there's plenty of challenges ahead, but I think we're on the right path, and we're developing a relationship that is mutually beneficial and in particularly beneficial to the unhoused population of Fresno County.
Well, good to know that there are monthly meetings that are going to be attended by you and your counterparts at the city. So that way, despite what politicians say and other activists and advocates in this space, that you're working closely with people that are decision makers at the top. So that's going to be valuable. Thank you.
Thank you, Amina. And at this point, do we have any comments to close with before I ask for comments from the public?
I have no further comments, but would take questions, but I have no further comments. Thank you.
Any comments from the public? Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. This is
Morning.
Brandy Desviegas. Sorry about that. And I really appreciate that you have the timer right there. And I ask that there would be something like Zoom access, because a lot of the people who are working with those who are unhoused are very busy working with those who are unhoused and cannot access these meetings. I haven't had a chance because of busyness with the budgets and whatnot to be able to look over this detail, but there's things in here that I think that need to be addressed that would be important. Transparency is crucial. Even the grand jury has addressed that for Fresno. We need more details and documentation. We need to see what is happening. We need more, as far as county goes, we need more social services in shelters and in other places. And one of the things that were mentioned in here that I really appreciate is in the thing, and actually Nathan mentioned, is lived experience. We need to hear directly from those who are affected by homelessness. One, to assess needs. What is needed is 5 years ago is different than what is needed now in Fresno. Maybe like specific things, but also to assess that the data to report directly on how programs, projects, services are going in a way that is safe for them to be able to say, people who are affected and with these projects and resources need to be able to need to be heard. There needs to be a way to make that part of assessment, and hearing about assessment, that is something that's missing. There are agencies that are reporting information, but not enough from hearing from those who are directly affected in ways that are different than other services, to see strengths and weaknesses, but also address injustices. There is a lot, also having, in the whole thing, having homeless advocates as part of the table, as well as those who are unhoused, are important as those who are on the ground. As far as accountability, we do need to be comprehensive that allows that services are truly dignified and equitable. For example, exiting from shelters. Staff member on duty could dismiss a particular person without a clear protocol. There is no waiting till the next day and something set up. We don't have documentation, so you see that someone is exited, you don't know why. Yesterday, I only have half a minute. Yesterday, I met a young man that I've known for a while who's going to school. He was exited and lost his schooling. They wouldn't give him his stuff back. Another woman that I met yesterday is on oxygen and is frail and was exited. Knowing and determining and trying to keep people in so that they can go forward would actually save you money if we had good third-party and first-person accountability. And as far as I also want to mention, as far as cleanups on there, that it needs to just clean up but partner with them rather than displacing, because that is also costing because it's not solving problems. So yeah, just ask for those to be considered in these things, that we are truly looking at what would bring the people to the table that need to be at the table. Sorry for going over. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments from the public? Okay. Mr. Nerland, no more comments?
No further comments. Today's action would adopt a resolution supporting the at-home program that you just heard about. So thank you for your comments and questions.
With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 6.
We now move to item number 6, adopt resolution declaring that the 23 county-owned travel trailers are surplus personal property and are not needed for the use by the county and may be donated to community-based 501c3 nonprofit corporations that are organized to provide health and human services, including serving the health and welfare needs of the unhoused population of the county in accordance with Government Code Section 25372.
County Administrative Officer, Mr. Nerland.
Good morning again, Chairman and members of the board, your CAO, Paul Nerland. Today's next item and recommended action deals with travel trailers that the county has been good stewards of over the last several years. I'm going to have Amina Flores-Becker share a little bit about these trailers, what's been happening with them, and what is recommended today to serve our unhoused population. So thank you, Amina.
Thank you, Paul. Amina Flores-Becker, Deputy CAO with the County of Fresno. So we are here, the item before you is a recommendation to donate the surplus travel trailers to benefit the unhoused community in the County of Fresno. Our purpose with this presentation is, one, to clarify the timeline, to explain how we got here. Two is to celebrate and highlight the partnerships that helped us get to this point. Three is to provide a current status of the usage of these travel trailers. And then finally, to provide a recommendation for next steps. So brief history, we go back to March of 2020 at the very beginning of COVID. The state of California, through their Office of Emergency Services, identified 28 trailers to go to the city of Fresno. The city of Fresno, in April of 2020, concluded that the county of Fresno was better equipped to utilize these trailers because we were taking the lead on COVID-19 response, including that response for the unhoused population of Fresno County. Because of our participation in the Fresno Madera Continuum of Care, we understood what the needs in Madera County were, and therefore we requested that 3 of the trailers be redirected to Madera County for their use. The remaining 25 trailers were redirected or directed to 6 community-based organizations that provided emergency housing services to the unhoused population, and their purpose was to provide isolation of residents of the shelters that were either symptomatic or positive for COVID-19. So for the next 2 years, that's what they were utilized for. The trailers were utilized to provide emergency housing and isolation for COVID, or for folks symptomatic or positive for COVID-19. So fast forward to May of 2022, your board allocated $6.5 million in ARPA funding for the homelessness initiatives projects. And these projects were specific to benefit the unhoused population of Fresno County. One of those projects was the emergency housing project that would have utilized these trailers for a longer-term emergency housing location in the city of Fresno, was where the project location was identified. Fast forward to July of 2022, because your board approved that ARPA project, we moved 21 of the trailers from the CBO locations to the identified project location. 3 of the trailers remained at CBO locations and continue to be utilized for emergency housing. Then, February of 2023, we received word from the city of Fresno that the identified location of the emergency housing project, that again would have utilized these trailers, was not going to be approved by the city of Fresno and was in their jurisdiction, so it was their prerogative to approve the location. As soon as we got word of this, we started assessing the needs at the CBO locations that still had the trailers. So talking to the CBO reps and assessing what their needs were. March of 2023, during the storm emergency, we moved 17 of the trailers to the Fresno Fairgrounds, where they were utilized for emergency shelter of evacuated residents due to the storm emergency. 4 of the trailers at that time were moved to RH Community Builder sites to be used as emergency housing for the unhoused population. And then last month, your board reallocated the $1 million in ARPA funding from the emergency housing project to the Poverello Kitchen expansion project. And I just want to remind you, the reason why your board was asked to do that was because when we heard that the project location was not going to be approved, that essentially killed the feasibility of the project. Once the project location went away, feasibility for the project went away. So that's why this board approved that reallocation of funds. So I did want to highlight the successful partnerships that got us to this point. First and foremost, as I mentioned earlier, these were originally identified for the city of Fresno. Because of the partnership with the city of Fresno, they understood quickly that we were better equipped, the county was better equipped to optimize the utilization of this resource, and therefore redirected them to us. In addition, once we received the trailers, our partnership with the 6 community-based organizations helped us to quickly move that resource to those locations so that services would not be interrupted, and we could continue through COVID providing emergency shelter to the unhoused population of Fresno County. So currently, the 7 of the trailers are being utilized at 3 community-based organization locations that are identified in the recommendation. Those are Fresno Mission, RH Community Builders, aka Elevate Community Services, and Poverello House. So that's 7 of them. 17 of them are at the Fresno Fairgrounds and are ready to be used for emergency evacuation for folks that could be displaced due to flood concerns. So what do we do now? The recommendation in front of you is to give our CAO approval or authorization to enter into these donation agreements with the 3 CBOs identified on the recommended action that are currently utilizing the trailers or utilizing some of the trailers. When would this happen? We recommend that we hang on to the 17 trailers that we are currently utilizing at Fresno Fairgrounds through the summer months in anticipation of any emergency evacuations that folks in flood-prone areas we may need to enter into that action. Why are we making this recommendation? We believe that donating these trailers would preserve the intent of the initial homelessness initiatives projects, which is to benefit the unhoused population. So I want to make really, really clear that the recommended action would make it so that every single trailer that is donated is benefiting the unhoused population either directly or indirectly. And then the identified community-based organizations specifically provide supportive and housing services to our unhoused population in Fresno County. They are equipped to utilize them immediately. And also I wanted to mention that these trailers have very limited shelf life. So the average lifespan of a travel trailer like this is 5 to 10 years, and the more they're utilized, the faster that lifespan goes, and they were heavily utilized for 2 years. So we believe that with this recommendation, it expedites the benefit to the unhoused population and maximizes the utilization of that resource. So finally, I just want to conclude that the county, as you can see with the timeline, has taken extensive actions and efforts to ensure that these trailers are utilized in a manner that benefits the unhoused population. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Supervisor Maxey.
Amina, thank you for really that. I like the timeline that you put up there because there's been some confusion about the trailers. Are they being used? Who originally got the trailers? And just one thing I wanted to point out a little bit. So what you said in your timeline was that the city of Fresno, roughly a month after they received those in 2020, sent an email to the county basically saying, we want to give these trailers to you. Can we work together? As I understand it, when we were working together during COVID and our COVID response to homeless individuals, the city never transferred title to those trailers, and it basically was just an email, that was it. So at any point in time from April of 2020 till the beginning of this year, did the city of Fresno reach back out and say, hey, we'd like to get those trailers back so we can use them for homelessness or anything else?
No, they haven't reached out with that specific request. We have discussed the trailers, but no interest has been expressed in receiving them back.
I know one of the things that the county had to do is we had to work with the Department of Motor Vehicles, and we spent a considerable amount of time to get the title in order for these trailers and pay the registration fees and everything else. So, but I'll tell you, as one supervisor, if at any point in time the city of Fresno had wanted these trailers back, I would be happy to give them back to them because technically, on paper, they belong to the city. But I do appreciate the partnership because I do know as the city of Fresno and the county works together, whether it's dealing with COVID response or other homeless issues, we are better when we work together. Where I kind of reel a little bit is when one of our partners starts making accusations which is completely unfounded. And so the timeline that you have prepared, actually I would challenge anyone out there, take a look at the timeline, and if someone disagrees with the account that's been given, then feel free to throw rocks. But if that timeline is accurate, then I think we all need to kind of put our heads down and continue to march forward and do everything we can to help the unhoused here in the county. Thank you.
Supervisor Mendez.
Yeah, he kind of brought something up, but I want to try to clarify it. The title to the trailers was never in the city of Fresno. It was with the state of California.
Correct.
So they never even took title.
Mhm.
And we're still working to get that straightened out.
As of Monday, it is fixed.
It was done Monday?
Yeah. It
So
was
there's-
finalized Monday. It took several months to get to
Okay.
that point, but yeah, it was
Yeah,
finalized.
we did the paperwork. We haven't got the titles back yet.
I believe we've received them now.
You
They-
did
yeah,
receive
They
them,
were in the mail over the
I
weekend.
just want to clarify that the city never took title to those trailers.
Right.
Supervisor Brandow.
Yeah, and I actually have a follow-up on that. As we pass these trailers along to these CBOs, which I think they're going to do great work with them, better work than we could do with them in-house. They're out amongst the actual services that the people need. Do we retain title at the county of those trailers, or does that get passed on to the CBOs?
The donation agreements would make it so that the title gets passed on. They would become the owners of
They would become fantastic.
the trailers.
So if a windshield gets knocked out, they are responsible for that, right? They won't, okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Amina. Is there any comments from the public?
This is very brief, but I just ask that, along with talking again about accountability, that we ensure that trailers are going directly to ensure that we're meeting needs as far as shelter for people. I heard that indirectly, but we need direct ones, as was mentioned at the last meeting. Des had mentioned about many families, and with the family shelters closing and whatnot, we want to ensure that every single trailer, everything that could potentially be a resource for families in this community could potentially go, and just ask that there be accountability to ensure that this is directly going to serve and house people who are in need of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion and a second to approve the item.
I'll move for staff's recommendation.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 7.
We now move to item number 7, under Internal Services, conduct first hearing to amend the master schedule of fees, charges, and recover costs, section 3800, general services, where subsections 3804, badge identification, 3809, fleet labor, 3810, motor pool, 3811, fuel tank inspection, 3812, building maintenance labor, and 3813, janitorial labor.
Good morning, Chair, board members. Robert Bash, Director of Internal Services, Chief Information Officer. This item and the following item are the annual review of the ISD rates for our Internal Service Fund divisions. This General Service Master Schedule of Fees item represents charges across 3 internal service funds: fleet, facilities, and security. It represents the fees necessary to fully recover expected costs within those operational units based upon expected service levels as required for an ISF. You'll see a mix of changes in individual rates due to changes in costs or changes in the quantities requested from our departments. An example here would be the replacement of vehicles in our motor pool. That increased our cost, but we're getting to a point where our motor pool will not have cars over about 5 years old, so no more 2002 Tauruses when you need to rent a car from us. Still much less expensive than walking up to a rental counter. I'm available for any questions on this item.
Any comments from the board? Okay. Any comments from the public? Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion and a second to approve the item.
I'll move for staff's recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion. Second? Okay, Supervisor Pacheco seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item 8.
We now move to item number 8, under Internal Services, conduct first hearing to amend the master schedule of fees, charges, and recover costs, Section 4300, Information Technology Services.
Okay, good morning
Bash.
again. Yes, good morning again, Chair. This item is for our information technology services. There are two funds in that. It's the general IT fund as well as the PeopleSoft operations. Again, they represent the fees necessary to fully recover expected costs within those units. Just available for any questions on this side. It's the same item as last time, just different divisions.
Okay. Any comments from the board? Okay. Seeing none, any comments from the public? Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion in a second.
I'll move for staff's recommendations on item 8.
Okay. Is there a second? We have motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
We now move to item number 9, under Social Services, adopt resolution to fill a Social Services Appeals Specialist position with extra help retiree Maria Flores, part-time, effective June 12, 2023, finding pursuant to Government Code Section 7522.56F1 that a 180-day separation period for retired employees returning to employment as extra help is not applicable based on your board certification that the nature of employment and appointment is necessary to fill a critically needed position before the 180-day separation period.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Sonia Bugay, Department of Social Services. This request is really to fill 4 positions: one appeals specialist, job specialist, eligibility worker, and an office assistant with extra help retirees. Department of Social Service, I was really hoping to be here with a lot more names than this. Part of it is Department of Social Services is in a unique position this year with a CalSAW system implementation that impacts about 500,000 people in this county, 1,800 of our staff, and about 14 different programs and about 500,000 cases. We are transitioning from CalWIN system to CalSAW system that, in addition to our normal work and normal vacancy rates, we're experiencing a need for about 1,800 of our staff to go through about 80 to 120 hours of training in the next couple of months and transition 500,000 cases to a new system. It increases the need for staffing in order to cover ongoing services because we're unable to pause our ongoing delivery of services in order to remove 1,800 of our staff for about 3 weeks for training. So we would utilize extra help staff to help us maintain services while our regular staff are going through training in order to maintain services. We are also experiencing public health emergency unwinding, where Medi-Cal redeterminations have restarted, so our normal work that has been paused for the past 3 years has resumed. With that, the increase of work for the next 3 to 6 months on our staff is going to be considerable. That asking your board to support extra help positions and retirees coming back to maintain workload so we can maintain services while we're going through this transition is the reason for the item. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Magzik.
One quick question. So all individuals in Fresno County that receive Medi-Cal coverage, is all of that done through the county, or are there any community-based organizations that have contracts directly with the state to help us with that?
It's all done through the county. It requires a county eligibility worker to do Medi-Cal redetermination. We are subcontracting, or we will be subcontracting, for some Medi-Cal navigation for people to help gather documents, but it still requires a county eligibility worker to actually process the documentation and process the eligibility. So it is all our eligibility workers.
And I would imagine the individuals that receive Medi-Cal in Fresno County is well north. It's probably hundreds of thousands, I would imagine.
We have currently about 516,000 people receiving Medi-Cal in Fresno County.
516,000. Thank you.
Supervisor Mendez.
Yeah, I'm supporting this recommended action, but I want to ask the CAO, how did we get into this? How did this rule get put in place?
So this was back in, as I recall, around 2012. It was part of the state's PEPRA legislation when they changed retirement plans, and so the requirement was made that any request like this must come back to your board if there isn't a separation period that is less than 180 days. So since that time, it's been a requirement that we bring these back to your board, and we don't typically I think they were focusing at the time on what they would have called double dipping of retirees coming back when there could be permanently filled positions. And so we limit those even when they come to our office to very special needs like this. But that's the reason for this, the need to do this. It was state law.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, any comments from the public? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion and a second.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor, opposed?
And I was the second, just for
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sonia.
We now move,
10.
we now move to item number 10, Board of Supervisors Committee Reports and Comments.
Supervisor Mendez? Okay, the other side, the far side.
Well,
Yes.
I don't have any comments today, thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Pacheco?
I do. I want to say something today. I don't normally say too much under this category, but I think the events that have occurred over the last 10 days deserve some comments. So I'd like to take this opportunity to personally thank our two colleagues, Supervisor Brandow and Supervisor Magsig, for the work that they did on the ARPA committee. It was a lot of applicants. It was a lot of mundane going through the applicants and working with the CAO staff. But I think it's come to light that the county did a very good job in vetting our applicants. And you guys were criticized a lot because of our rigidness and how we strictly adhere to rules. Yet in this particular case, we had to be flexible for all of those rural agencies that don't have the sophistication and the resources to apply for the funding of that magnitude in the ARPA. And again, I want to compliment you two for having that. Yet for the big ones that needed financial records and things like that, that didn't have it, that you threw them out before it even got to the board. So a lot of people want to say that they're fiscal watchdogs and fiscal conservatives. Well, you two walked the walk and you did the real work, because we all know of the events that have happened last week. That entity applied for money from us, and they didn't make our screening process because you two vetted them out. And I just want to think you deserve some recognition for that we avoid a lot of negative press for the work that you two did. And I thought it'd be appropriate that we recognize this, because our colleagues across the street are the first one to throw the rocks, yet they gave $1 million away that we did not, because of the efforts of you two. And I want to say on behalf of myself, and I think the rest of us, we appreciate the work that you did. And that's it.
Supervisor Mendez for Magzik?
Sure. And so to follow on a little bit, I don't know if some of the services here at the county can be offered up to the Bitwise employees here in Fresno County. I know that Annalisa Perea, I believe on Friday or Saturday, helped to spearhead kind of like a jobs fair for workers there that are in need of employment now. And I would encourage our CAO's office, as long as I have the support of my colleagues here, to maybe reach out to the city and see if we can offer up services, because I will say this, everything that did happen with Bitwise happened quickly, and they have many talented employees there, so we need to, in my opinion, do everything we can to offer up jobs that maybe we have here at the county, and to other businesses that are looking for workers. If we can help facilitate in partnership with the city, I think that would be very beneficial to our area. Also, I wanted to share, on Sunday I had the pleasure of being part of an event. It was the Tour Day Recovery 2, because this is the second year that the Department of Behavioral Health, working with Turn, has participated in a cycling event to raise money for really 5 different sites across the state where Turn has different locations, but they manage the hacienda. And there were about 8 different cyclists who came out, and they had raised at that point, I think, somewhere around $64,000 to help individuals who are going through that program. And I got to hear from one of the speakers who last year was a beneficiary of some funds to help her get a car so she could go to work. And as she became better and went through the program that our Department of Behavioral Health helped to fund, it gave her an opportunity to be reunited with her daughter. And so hearing the stories about how drugs can really take hold of someone's life and wreck them, but then to hear how our workers here at the county helped to come alongside, and our partners, many different community-based organizations, came alongside this individual to help get her clean and sober. And she is in recovery today, and we helped her get a car through some of the funds that were raised last year. It was very compelling to hear her story. And so I just wanted to congratulate the Department of Behavioral Health and the work that they do, as well as the Department of Social Services, because many times we don't get to sing the praises of some of the work that individual workers do, and I got to hear some of those stories on Sunday, so thank you for that.
Supervisor Mendez.
Yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about flood release. It's, continues to come down, even though the Kings River looks like it has a lot of water in it. The actual number is actually going, down to South Fork or, sub 700 second feet, which, isn't really a lot. Part of that water gets picked up for irrigation purposes. So even some of the, I have a place that I drive down from our Stratford ranch and actually look at the lake, and it's really hasn't come up anymore for the last, 2 to 3 weeks. So, I think this deal is passing. We've had, I think the Army Corps and KRWA have done a great job. There's still going to be a lot of snow melted, but I think it's going to definitely be handled. And I think we're going to end up with a little bit of snow above the 10,000 foot area that'll stay for a second year. So it's been kind of an interesting deal, and I just, people need to calm down. I think we're doing pretty good.
Just wanted to follow up a little bit on Supervisor Pacheco's comments and thank Supervisors Magzik and Brandow for the work that they did throughout the ARPA process. Really appreciate their due diligence on that. And just to see the participation that the county still has involved with it. We do have, we're all on different boards and committees here that we're assigned to. And I can tell you that some of those boards and committees that we're assigned to have already come out and see what they can do to help the Bitwise employees. I know through one of the boards I'm on, the Workforce Development Connection, they've already established a hotline to try and help and assist the individuals that were quote unquote furloughed with offering them different types of job trades to learn different types of works. And I know that also our departments throughout Fresno County, our social service and mental health, they're all doing what they can and working with the community-based organizations to provide outreach to those folks. So just wanted to say thank you for that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have some comments after all. They're very short, they're very brief. It's because 3 of you spoke about the Bitwise situation and gave Supervisor Magzik and I credit for, oversight of that. But it was oversight, and we have a great staff underneath George Uke and others who are working on ARPA every day, all day. And so we want to thank you for acknowledging that. But there's a lot of people that catch these, and they see a lack of documentation. They let the applicant know that these are required with the County of Fresno. So there's a lot of people behind the scenes doing good work. Thank you.
But if it went bad, you would have taken the heat too. So. and there will be some that go bad. There will be.
Right.
And again, it's through all the spectrums, but you're right. Our staff did a fantastic job, and it goes to my comments earlier. We're known as being rigid, and we have more rules, where the city of Fresno, they can, as Supervisor Mendez says, they're like Santa Claus. They just give money out everywhere. But in the end, you're accountable. So now they all want to go and say they're getting their tax dollar. Well, you guys did it up front, and you did the hard work, again, with our staff. And I want to fully acknowledge all the work you did, Paul with your team and George, and appreciate Supervisor you bringing that up, because it is a team effort, but if someone were to get blamed, it'd be us five, and we did it. And there will be some that fall through the cracks, but at least on the big ones, the low-hanging fruit, we caught that up front, not after the fact saying we need to get our money back. So again, I appreciate the efforts you did, and that's good. It is a team effort.
Right on. Thank you.
Good acknowledgement.
I'm just going to leave it said, what's said. I could really add on to that, but it's no use piling on.
Mr. Nerlin, you want to make comment?
Just a brief comment about the job fair for Bitwise. There is a job fair, I believe it's next Friday, and the County of Fresno will be there, and also focusing in on not just those employees, but some jobs here at the county that they can apply for. But we'll look at any option that we can to support them. Thank you.
Item number 11, clerk.
Item number 11, board appointments.
Any board members wish to make appointments? Supervisor Magzig.
Yes, I have one to the Behavioral Health Board. Appoint Elizabeth Coos to the vacant District 5 seat, which expires on 4/1/2024.
Okay. Any other?
Mr. Chairman, I also have one. I'd like to reappoint Leland Nilmeyer to the Recreation and Wildlife Commission for a term ending January 4, 2027.
Okay. Okay, any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Motion.
We have motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
We now move to item number 12, public presentation. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the board on any matter not on this agenda.
Okay. Are there any members of the public who wish to address the board on any matter not on the agenda? Please form a line behind the podium and limit it to 3 minutes per person and no more than 15 minutes total per topic.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
I'm Alfredo Hernandez. This is my daughter, Danica Hernandez. We are with the IHSS program. My daughter was born with a unique disability. She has neurofibromatosis, which caused a glioma, a tumor on her optic nerve, which caused her slight blindness and some mental issues. I just want to say that the board here has been talking about homelessness and routes to places for homeless people. Well, homelessness starts at home. And to avoid homelessness, people need a home. And in my case, my wife got ill. She had a heart attack. My daughter is disabled. Now my wife is disabled. I care for them both at home. I'm now making less than what I used to. I'm a 22-year welder from Gregor Boat, who no longer exists. And it's really hard, you know. And to say that you guys want to help homelessness, you know, you have to start it. You have to start it at home. And for me to be making less than what I used to be, caring for people, it's hard, you know. And all we're doing is asking for a little bit more an hour. We're not coffee shop people. We're not gift shop people, like in San Francisco, where they're giving them $25 an hour. Not just the healthcare people. They're giving coffee shop workers $25 an hour. Where's ours? That's all I want to say is where's ours? You know, keep us from being homeless. We're here in Fresno County. We're not in San Francisco County. We're not in Santa Clara County. We're not. This is our county. I was born, raised here. Went to Firebaugh High. So, you know, I'm here at home. So let's keep people in a home and with a job. You know, that's all I'm asking. Is this? I'm not asking for millions for a project. I'm asking for like just an increase in a few years of $5. You know, $5 increase in like 2 years. That's not asking a lot. How much was your guys' last race? Did you guys lose your health care after your guys' race? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Okay.
Hello, my name is Arthur Diavola. I live in the 93702 district. Been a provider for 8 years. I'm here to ask the board for a better contract. I believe that we are important to senior communities and save the city money by helping senior citizens. The price of everything is going up, and I think our wages should go up also. And I'm asking the board for a better contract to help us out. Thank you. That's it.
Hi, my name is Olga Valle. Good afternoon, board. My thing is, I'm exhausted. I'm not working, and just like everyone else here, for IHSS, homeless, Medi-Cal, it's all part of it. Many of our people that work for IHSS get Medi-Cal. And the reason is because you don't approve the healthcare we have. Only 2,000 workers out of all our IHSS workers that are able to get the Medi-Cal. They have to work 80 hours a month for 2 years to get it. And like I said last time, I thank you for approving the last contract, but we're without a contract. And we need you to step up again, to be brave and to step up. Yes, we have the SB item in Sacramento. It's going to be a while, but meantime, we have our local people here, our representatives that we phone bank and whatever, and you represent us. We are your constituents. We're asking you to step up because whatever happens in Sacramento is fine. We'll deal with it when it gets just through in Sacramento. But meanwhile, you're looking bad. And you're looking bad for when it's time to reelect you, because it's not what you do at reelection time. It's what you're doing now. And we need you to step up now. You know that there's lives. They're not just numbers. And you know that we're saving the county money. Because for every person who's not in a facility, that they are in-home supportive services, the county is saving thousands for us to be working. And it's not fair that they get paid so much when we are not. And it's not much that we're asking for. But remember, we're not young. And I don't say just me, but also you have to think of it. Some of you think you're very secure with your jobs and all that. I thought so too. You know, as a teacher, I thought I had my healthcare plan pretty established. Well, it didn't happen that way. And you know the situation with my daughter. And she had to wait 2 years. We could have taken care of it before those 2 years. So I ask you to step up now. I'm exhausted. I don't want to be coming here for 9 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, is anyone from the public wishing to address the board on closed session items 13 to 16? Okay. Mr. Cedarboard, will we have anything to report out, or can we adjourn following closed session?
Mr. Chairman, we do not expect any announcements following closed session, so if the board chooses, it would be appropriate to adjourn following closed session.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion and a second to adjourn following closed session.
So moved.
We have 2 firsts and 2 seconds. All in favor? Aye.
Mr. Chairman, could you?
Opposed? Motion.
Sorry, I didn't hear who, I got the second. Thank you.
Thank you. You had the best comments of the day. Good morning, everyone. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Supervisor Maxick,
Here.
Supervisor Brandow,
Here.
Supervisor Mendez,
Here.
Supervisor Pacheco,
Here.
Chairman Quintero.
Here.
All present. Thank you.
Good morning. Welcome to the Tuesday, June 6, 2023 meeting of the Fresno County Board of Supervisors. We'll begin today's meeting with the invocation and flag salute. The invocation will be